Thank you, Director Mueller. I want to ask you some questions about the President's statements regarding advanced knowledge of the WikiLeaks dumps. So the President refused to sit down with your investigators for an in-person interview, correct?
Correct.
So the only answers we have to questions from the President are contained in Appendix C to your report.
That's correct.
Okay, so looking at Appendix C on page 5, you asked the President over a dozen questions about whether he had knowledge that WikiLeaks possessed or might possess the emails that were stolen by the Russians.
I apologize.
Sure.
Can you start it again?
Okay, sure. So we're looking at Appendix C.
Right.
And in Appendix C, page 5, you asked the President about a dozen questions about whether he had knowledge that WikiLeaks possessed the stolen emails that might be released in a way helpful to his campaign or harmful to the Clinton campaign. Is that correct? You asked those questions? Okay. In February of this year, Mr. Trump's personal attorney, Michael Cohen, testified to Congress under oath that, quote, Mr. Trump knew from Roger Stone in advance about the WikiLeaks drop of emails, end quote. That's a matter of public record, isn't it?
Well, are you referring to the report or some other public record?
This was testimony before Congress by Mr. Cohen. Do you know if he told you?
I'm not familiar with it, explicitly familiar with what he testified to before Congress.
Okay. Let's look at an event described on page 18 of volume 2 of your report. Now, and we're going to put it up in a slide, I think. According to Deputy Campaign Manager Rick Gates, in the summer of 2016, he and candidate Trump were on the way to an airport shortly after WikiLeaks released its first set of stolen emails. And Gates told your investigators that candidate Trump was on a phone call, and when the call ended, Trump told Gates that more releases of damaging information would be coming, end quote. Do you recall that from the report?
If it's in the report, I support it.
Okay, and that's on page 18 of volume 2. Now, on page 77 of volume 2, your report also stated, quote, in addition, some witnesses said that Trump privately sought information about future WikiLeaks releases, end quote. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Now, in Appendix C, where the President did answer some written questions, he said, quote, I do not recall discussing WikiLeaks with him, nor do I recall being aware of Mr. Stone having discussed WikiLeaks with individuals associated with my campaign, end quote. Is that correct?
If it's from the report, it is correct.
Okay. So is it fair to say the President denied ever discussing WikiLeaks with Mr. Stone and denied being aware that anyone associated with his campaign discussed WikiLeaks with Stone?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one?
Is it fair then that the President denied knowledge of himself or anyone else discussing WikiLeaks dumps with Mr. Stone?
Yes.
Okay. And with that, I would yield back.
Thank you, ma'am.